Nori, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you, Casey. I'm so excited to be here. This is
Uh,
my first podcast appearance, and I'm
uh,
glad it's your podcast. I'm very excited.
Uh,
Thank you
that's
for
very
inviting
kind.
me.
Absolutely. I couldn't help but invite you. We have obviously communicated quite a bit through the book club. As I alluded to in the introduction, I can't always make it every week, but the times I can make it, I really love the discussion. I love what you bring to the table. You always bring something very highly intelligent. I remember if it was just a few weeks ago, we were talking about something and you were saying, like, I don't know if you guys can believe this, but I was actually a pretty nerdy kid growing up. And I think I was on mute, but I just started laughing to myself. Like, I don't think you're surprising anybody by saying you're like a book nerd as a kid. I think everybody already knows that about you or can at least assume that to be true.
Good point. I mean, yes, you're right.
And I just have to say, besides not pronouncing your last name exactly correctly in Slovakian in the introduction, those were your words and not mine, calling you nerdy and a chubby kid and that kind of thing. Just want to make sure that that was not not me saying that. That was your own self-proclaimed introduction.
Oh, oh yes, oh yes. I mean, I guess that's kind of my sense of humor, but it's also all true. I was a little ball when I was in second grade, so chubby is maybe a bit of an understatement, but it was kind of the 90s chubby, it was different standards back
Yeah,
then.
very different. Yeah, I was a husky kid growing up. They always called me, and I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew it wasn't great. But yeah, it's a lot different than it is now for sure. And I do want to talk about your story and your upbringing. You have a lot of interesting nuances that I want to get into, and frankly, a bunch of things that I don't even know. So a lot of the questions I'll ask you will be just straight up honest questions. But before we dive into that, we'll talk a little bit more about book club later on in the discussion. But just to start out, like, how has your experience been so far in this book club, Dr. Anthony Chaffee's book club that you can go onto Patreon and pay for? I've been part of it for about a year and a half. I don't the few bucks a month that I have to pay for it. I love the discussion. What has your experience been so far in the book club?
I love that book club. It's one of the highlights of my week. Don't always get to go, but I really try to. For me in Europe, it's in the middle of the day because we try to accommodate for everyone around the world, and it's not easy. So I often have to kind of leave work early or something, just to get to participate in the book club. But it's just full of such amazing, smart, thoughtful people that many of them I consider my friends now. I joined the book club. I joined Dr. Chaffee's Patreon solely because of the book club, because they were going to discuss, it was Simon Hill's book, Proof is in the Plants, or I believe that's what it's called. And I thought it was so admirable that they were picking a book that was defending the opposite view of what the whole group believes. And I thought that was such a great opportunity to dive into those arguments. And I think it's important that we challenge what we believe, because it's so easy to just fall for confirmation bias and just look at whatever supports your already held opinion. So I joined the book club to participate in the reading of Simon Hill's Proof is in the Plants, and I never left because I just love the people. I love the discussions. We always go over time. It's like it's 2.5 hours sometimes.
Yep,
So the only problem with the book club is it's hard to find time for it, but it's just such an amazing group of people,
it really is.
and we're having so much fun. And I've learned so much and read so many very interesting and cool and useful books just because we've been reading them, and then that added um, value of discussing it with other people. I find it amazing. I mean, I love that book club.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's so interesting you mentioned like the discussions and the learning and I also respect highly the decision to read material that doesn't exactly line up with what we think, and to discuss that and be frank about it and really try to find like what are their arguments and what are they right about, and we can try to build bridges with other people. I think is amazing. What you said about people calling in from around the world, it's not the best time for me to get onto the book club, but I appreciate that it's only like 6 in the morning, generally my time, and people are waking up sometimes at 2 in the morning or staying up way past what would be my bedtime to join because it's that meaningful to them. I think that's a wonderful point. I'm surely you've been part of other groups, maybe a book club, maybe not book club, maybe other groups where you met people around the world. And I've kind of made this point recently, and I'm curious to hear what you think about it. Why is it that you said this book club in particular, you've met friends that are like, they feel like your best friends around the world? Like, again, comparing that to other groups, other conferences, other things you've done in your professional or personal career, why do you think it's different that this group feels like they're all just your friends automatically? Like you've never met these people, but I would be willing to bet that if anybody needed anything, they could call anybody in the book club and they would get help right then. And I don't know that that's true in other kind of groups. Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. And especially when I think about other relationships that develop online or like you join some Facebook group, uh, and you run into trolls and some hostility and more likely than a group this supportive and friendly. I don't know why it is. I think one of the things is Olivia Khwaja, who leads the book club, is doing such an amazing job. Uh, but I don't think it's I mean it's all the people who are joining, and maybe it's the fact that I mean it's a carnivore book club, although we're reading much more than just carnivore books. And I feel like a lot of people join carnivore because they, in a way, have to, or at least that's what the situation was until recently. It wasn't a mainstream thing. It was mostly people who were desperate, and that sometimes means that they have some difficult experiences under their belt and maybe more empathy towards others, but also a very strong growth mindset and trying to be better and be a better person. Um, Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe we're just lucky. Maybe it's just
Maybe that's a very scientific answer. I would expect nothing less from you. We're just speculating. It's interesting. Have you ever been to a low carbohydrate conference, like attended a low carb conference in person?
No, I haven't. I haven't. I live a bit remotely, I live in Norway.
Yeah.
I don't know if there have been any conferences here. Um, so no, I haven't.
Okay, interesting. So when I met Olivia the first time, it was at Low Carb Denver 2023. She took the trip across the pond from England to make it to Denver to attend that conference. And before the conference, this was like one of the best decisions I ever made. I put out a little invite to anybody to appear to do like a really quick interview style kind of discussion that I compiled into a big episode that I did, and was just out to strangers, anybody who is attending. Let's find some space in a hallway and let's just record. Tell me about your story, why you're here at this conference, what you like about it. Olivia was one of the people that signed up. You go to these conferences and there's hundreds, thousands of people, and you meet people and you talk to people and whatever. But like, I would probably not have met her in that way had she not signed up for that. And you sit down and talk with her, and it's like you're describing. Like immediately, Olivia and I are like great friends. Like she's awesome. I love her. And I made the argument that like more than any other conference, when you get into a room with people that are ketogenic, everybody's ketogenic. Their energy is so high. They're so positive. They've gone through that healing, like you mentioned. It's just electric. It's absolutely amazing. I hope you get to have that experience one day and attend one in person, because when you get a group of people that all feel that way, that are all asking honest and genuine questions, and if nothing else, are just in a ketogenic state, the energy is just off the charts.
I would love to experience that one day. But yeah, I think you're onto something with people who are keto seem to be calmer,
Yeah.
more
Yep.
stable moods. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Well said.